What's up, tribe? I'm Coach Sandy, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to count your macros. And if you guys stick with me till the end of the video, I'll teach you guys how to calculate your own macros. Before we go into all that, I need to teach you guys what a macro is and how it all works. So a macro is a macronutrient, and they're broken down into three main things: proteins, carbs, and fats. And these are nutrients that your body needs in order to provide structure and function and energy that your body needs in order to facilitate day-to-day things. So to break it down a little bit further, carbs have 4 calories per gram, fats have 9 calories per gram, and then proteins have 4 calories per gram. So during this video, we're not only going to learn what macronutrients are and what they facilitate and what they're good for, but we're also going to make sure that we know our caloric intake, break that down into percentages of the proteins, carbs, and fats, and then from there, in order to get the goals that we want, so that whether that's weight loss, putting on muscle, making sure that we can optimize our results, whether it's performance or just day-to-day living, all of those things will really come down to percentages of those macros into our caloric intake. So that's what we're gonna do at the end of the video, is set those for you.
All right, so let's take it one step further. So how do we actually calculate our macros when it comes to the food that we're eating? How does it work? So the first thing that we're gonna need to know is how to read a nutrition label. There are gonna be 3 main things that you look at. It's gonna be total fats, total carbs, and then our protein. So when we're looking at this peanut butter here, grab this from my parents' pantry. So we can see that the total fat is 16 grams. Then you can see that the total carbs is 6. And then the total protein, or just the protein itself, is 7 grams. Then all those things are going to be on every nutrition label. You're going to look at that. And then calorie count for 1 serving size, which is 2 tablespoons, or 32 grams, because we're going to weigh everything. So I usually like to look at things in grams, is going to be 190 calories. So what we're going to do is making sure that we get a food scale. Now this is just a, I think, $19 one from Target, so you can get them anywhere. Amazon has a whole bunch as well. I can always link them in the description below. So it doesn't have to be fancy. As long as you can change the units, tear it out, change the units, like that's really all it needs to do. So when it comes down to it, magic trick that I like to do is put the thing that you're weighing, like if it's a big container that you're going to take stuff out of, whether it's protein yogurt, Okios, or peanut butters, things like that. Then again, I like to keep it at grams. So right now it's at 0 grams, but the moment we put this on, it's going to change. So this whole thing weighs 587 grams. We don't want that. We want what we're going to take out of this jar. So we're going to tear it out. Tearing out means it's just coming back to 0. So whatever we take out now, it's going to give you a negative number, which I only want a serving size, which is going to be 32 grams. So that's what I'm going to be going for. So give me 1 sec. All right, so I have my spoon. We're going to go in here. We're going to get... All right, so right now it says 20. It's toggling back and forth between 20 and 21, but it evened out at 20. So that's 20 right there. And then we're going to go again. Again, we're going for 1 serving size, which is 32 grams. So I went over, so now we're at 37. And 32 exactly. This is probably my favorite part, when I get it exactly on the dot. So this is it here. And guys, this is why we start measuring, because this right here is 32 grams of peanut butter. This right here is 190 calories. I can tell you right now that we're probably using more than this when we're looking at a serving size, or we think we're eyeballing it, or we're not even measuring. This is why we want to fine tune, because this alone is 190 calories. So if you're eating more, there's all of these hidden calories that we're not accounting for. So we want to make sure that we're actually sticking to the serving size itself.
All right, so now we need to put this, the serving size that we're eating, into MyFitnessPal or Cronometer. Whatever one you're using, they work very similarly. So with that, I'm gonna use Cronometer today. So we're gonna go to our food diary, we're gonna add food, and I'm gonna scan it. So with MyFitnessPal, you do have to pay for the barcode. With Cronometer, you do not. So that's why I use it. And then we're gonna scan that, that's gonna come up. And then we're gonna click on that, and I'm gonna click on grams, because I want that to come up in the grams. If it says like the serving size on there, the 32, what is it? 32 grams or 2 tablespoons, you can always change the unit itself. So it's already on grams, so then that's good. And then what we did was 32 grams. So I got that out. We're gonna add to diary, and then that is now in there. It's accounted for, it's 190 calories, and it'll calculate that for you in the app itself. So it'll subtract that from your total calories, and then it'll add that into whatever you need for the day, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can click on there as well. So that is already accounted for. So we're good there.
And I hope that explained everything on a simple, granular level for you guys. That is really the basics. Making sure that we know what we're using, what we're going to be eating on a day-to-day, making sure you're prepared, and then making sure that we tear things out, weigh things in grams, making sure that you're staying consistent with the way that you weigh things out, and then putting that in Chronometer in MyFitnessPal, because the best thing is that both of those apps will sync over to the app that we use at Revolution Strength Conditioning, which is EverFit. So us as coaches can look at day-to-day entries, week-by-week entries, and then where we're at over a period of time, and then make those adjustments. But what we need to do is stay consistent, so that way we can make those adjustments off the data that we have. So next thing is we're gonna learn how to actually set our calorie goal and our percentages. So let's get right into it.
All right, guys, so now comes the fun part, making sure that we can calculate our macros. And now, disclaimer, everyone is a little bit different depending on background, what they've tried in the past, like where we're currently at. So again, this is a general rule of thumb. This is why sometimes we want to have you guys track for 2 weeks. That is and then take the average. That would be considered our maintenance. And then from there, just go and put ourselves in a 200 to 500 calorie deficit. So that is how we would do it. But if we do want to calculate our macros, just so we have a general rule of thumb, right? That's how we're going to do it today, because it is dependent on a couple different things. Because you hear all of these things out there, whether it comes from like fitness influencers or anywhere on the web, or you have a whole bunch of different calculators that you can find on the web. So making sure that we're going to take the information that we have today, and it's what I've learned, backed up by science. So making sure that we can find a number and have that for a period of time, and there's going to be trial and error. So making sure that we can set that. So let's have an example. Let's say someone comes in, they're 160 pounds, their ideal body weight is 140. So 140 is what we're going to be looking at. So with that, I'm going to take that, depending on a couple different things, whether they are active throughout the day and what their goal is, whether it's to lose weight, maintain, gain muscle, and then how sedentary on a scale from not sedentary at all or very active and moving 6 to 7 times a week. So, and that's like actually strength training, being physical. So not including our job, like labor intensive. And then this is where we're gonna have a chart, and I'll put it out on display. So let's say we wanna get to 140. We're gonna have a range. So if we look at our chart here, we can look at this. It's going to be how active are you, and then what our goal is. So this person wants to get to 140. They want to lose weight. So we're going to go in that lose weight column. And then from there, if you're working out with us, you know that you're on average working out 3 times a week. So that is where we're going to be moderately active, because we are strength training 3 to 4 times a week. So we're going to circle that. And we're going to come to our range of 12 to 14. So that is going to be our range. You can use that lower end of the range. So we want to make sure that if we calculate on that lower range, it's 140 times 12, which is going to get us, I believe, 1680. Give me 1 second, let me do some math. Yep, okay, so that lower end is going to be 1680. And then if we multiply on the higher end of that range at 14, 140 times 14 is 1960. So then that's how we're going to get those numbers there. And ideally, I'd start with the lower end, making sure that we can hit that, because hunger cues might not be there. We might get nauseous when we eat this much. Like, there's different things and different factors and variables that we want to take into account. So I always like to start you guys into that lower range. Once we're hitting that consistently, or let's say we're super hungry, that's why we have the check-in forms for you guys, so I can see that over time. So 1, we need to track. 2, we need to do our check-in forms, so that way we can make those adjustments. The more data we have, the better educated we are with what's going on, how you're feeling, how you're doing, so we can make those adjustments. So then that is going to be our range from 1680 to 1960. But we'll put that lower end range into MyFitnessPal, into Chronometer, so that way you have that as a reference point. And then from there, all right, so then we have our proteins, our carbs, our fats. Our 1750 is what we're going to be starting with on a calorie basis. So then with that, we remember that every gram, we're going to multiply it by 0. All All right, so we have our proteins, our carbs, and our fats. Our starting calories is going to be 1750. So with that, I'm going to multiply it by the percentages that we want. So general rule of thumb, I like to start you guys with a 30-40-30 split. So then that's if you like more of a higher carb diet. So I will usually ask you guys, so if you guys are eating a lot of carbs throughout the day, that's where we'll usually go. And then that way we want to make sure that our primary goal is to hit our protein intake. Making sure that we're getting as close to our calorie count throughout the day without going over, and then making sure that we are hitting our protein. Those are the two biggest factors for us, especially when we start tracking. So that'll be that there. So the 30-40-30 split, so we're going to do 0.3 because it's a percentage. So we're going to turn that into a decimal. No, back to math class, guys. And then we are going to do times 0.4 and then times 0.3. So then we're going to do the math for that, and then that is going to come out to 525 cals, 700 cals, and then 525 cals for that.
Calories, we're going to
All right, and then we have one more step here. So with that, I'm gonna change colors so that way you guys can see, because we have 525 calories, and the easy thing is that our protein and our fats are gonna be the same for this here. So with that, we're gonna be doing 525. All right, and then I'm going to change colors for you guys so that way you can see that last step on how to actually get the grams depending on what macro we're looking at. So we're going to take that 525 and then we're going to divide it by 4, because those were the numbers that we talked about earlier, whether it was 4, 9, or 4, depending on the macronutrient. So with that, we're going to go divide by 4. We're going to get 131.25 grams of protein. And then we are going to go and get 700 and then divide that by 4 as well. And then you're going to get 175 grams of carbs. And then don't forget, our fat is worth 9 calories per gram. So what we're going to do here, but don't think that it's going to be the same because we have the same calculation for that first one. It is going to be different because we're dividing by 9 for this one. So it's going to be 525 divided by 9. And then here we are going to get 58.3 grams of fat. So guys, this is the breakdown. It's easy as that, but with that, most of you guys, I will do this math for you. I will put it into EverFit, so then that way that can be in there. All you have to do is track your food, track your calories. Again, biggest thing is making sure that we're hitting our calorie count, getting as close to it as possible, and hitting our protein goal. If we can focus on those two things, our carbs and fats are interchangeable, so we can always make that change. But again, fill out your check-in forms, let us know where you're struggling, seeing how we can help you. But this is our breakdown on how we set those macros for you guys on the other side of it, so that way you guys have more behind the scenes of how we do it. But I hope this helped. I hope this video was useful. If you guys found value, go ahead and let me know. But let's get some gains, guys. Let's get this going and let's rock and roll.